Ever wonder what it really takes to go from being just a good teacher to a truly great one? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. Welcome to the instructor's journey. We're turning all those dense teaching principles into a practical, step-by-step guide.
It's a fantastic question, isn't it? What's that secret ingredient? Is it just about knowing your subject inside and out, or is there something more? Today, we're going to unpack that something more and turn it into a clear, actionable path for you.
All right, so here's our game plan. Our journey has 5 main stops. First, we'll dive deep inside the learner's mind. Then, we'll build out the essential 4-step teaching method. After that, we'll open up your instructional toolkit, figure out how to measure if any of this is actually working, and finally, look at the bigger picture, the instructor's wider role.
So first things first, where do we even begin? Well, it's not with what you want to teach, but with who you're teaching. You see, amazing instruction isn't about just blasting information out there, it's about understanding the person you're trying to reach. It all starts with the psychology of your student.
Okay, so let's get into a bit of the psychology here. A huge concept is B.F. Skinner's idea of operant conditioning. It sounds complicated, but at its heart, it's super simple. Our actions are shaped by what happens right after we do them. We learn what to do more of based on the consequences. To put it plainly, when a student gives something a shot and gets positive feedback, a little encouragement, a good result, they are way more likely to do it again. That positive reinforcement is a powerful, powerful engine for learning. But, behavior is just one piece of it. We also have to understand what motivates people in the first place. And that idea of motivation leads us straight to a classic, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, the big idea here is that our motivation is built up in 5 distinct levels. And as an instructor, you really need to get what they are. Think of it like building a house. You have to start with the foundation and build your way up. A truly great instructor gets that a student can't possibly focus on higher-level stuff, like earning respect or feeling confident if their basic needs, like feeling safe and secure, aren't met first. You absolutely have to meet them where they are.
Okay, so we've peeked inside the learner's mind. Now what? How do we actually structure a lesson to make it stick? Well, that brings us to the absolute core framework for any kind of instruction, the 4-step teaching method. This simple sequence is your secret weapon. First, you prepare the student, get them interested, get them motivated. Then, you present the new information. Next, and this part is so crucial, you let them apply it to practice it themselves. And finally, you test to make sure they've actually got it. See, it's a full circle, from sparking interest to real mastery.
But let's zoom in on that presentation step, because this is where a lot of people can get tripped up. The secret? It's all about priorities. Just think like you're teaching someone to drive. You wouldn't start with the chemical composition of gasoline, would you? Of course not. You focus on what they need to know right now. So break it down like this. You've got your must-know information. These are the essential driving techniques. Can't drive without them. Then there's the should-know stuff, like a basic understanding of how the brakes work. Important, but not step 1. And finally, you have the could-know details, like the current price of gas. A great instructor builds their entire lesson around the must and should, and saves the could for later or never. All right, so you understand your learner, and you've got your 4-step framework ready to go. Now, what do you actually use to bring the whole thing to life? Let's open up your instructional toolkit. Now, before we even start talking about gadgets or software, let's get one thing straight. The single most powerful tool you will ever have is effective communication. Teaching is not a lecture. It is not a one-way broadcast. It has to be a conversation, a two-way street. When you do get to your teaching aids, you want to engage different senses. You've got your classic audio tools, like a recording of some kind, and then, of course, you've got your visual tools, things like slide decks, charts, and posters. The whole idea is to use what people see to lock in the key ideas. And of course, today's technology gives us some amazing advanced options. Simulators can create incredibly realistic situations without any of the risk. Recorded video lets students watch and rewatch a complex process. And 3D models? Perfect for getting a hands-on feel for something complex. It's always about picking the right tool for the job. This brings us to a really critical question. You've done the prep, you've presented the material, you've let them practice. But how do you know if it actually worked? Did it stick? This is where we have to measure for true understanding. So why do we test? When most of us hear that word, we just think about getting a grade. But that's not the real point. A good test, first and foremost, checks for understanding. It also gives learners a pretty good reason to study. But maybe most importantly, it's a guide.
It shows both you and the learner exactly what's working and where the weak spots are.
And for any test to be worthwhile, it absolutely has to have 3 key qualities. It needs to be valid, meaning, does it actually test what you taught? It needs to be reliable, will it give you consistent results? And it needs to be objective, is it graded fairly without any personal bias?
Here's the thing. You can't just use one type of test for everything. If you just want to check if someone remembers facts, an objective test is great. If you need to see if they can analyze something, you'll need a subjective test, like an essay. And if you're teaching a hands-on skill, well, the only way to test that is with a performance test. You have to match the test to the goal.
All right, we are on the home stretch of our journey, because being a truly great instructor, well, it goes way beyond just the lesson plan. It's about your wider role, about the whole environment you create.
So, let me ask you a question that I think every instructor has worried about at some point. How do you maintain good discipline? What's the secret sauce for keeping a classroom running smoothly?
The answer is almost too simple. You keep them busy. That's it. A student who is genuinely engaged, who is deep in meaningful work, simply doesn't have the time or the energy for mischief. Engagement is your #1 discipline tool.
And that really speaks to this bigger idea. Ultimately, being a great instructor is about more than just teaching. It's about leadership. I love this quote. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. You can't just talk the talk. You have to embody the very knowledge and skills you're trying to share.
So, there you have it. We've walked the entire path, from getting inside a learner's head all the way to embracing your role as a leader. You have the framework now. You have the tools and the perspective. So the only real question left is, how are you going to use them to build the future?